Welcome back to TK Talks. This is podcast 4 with me and Kresstoph. Make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. Today we're going to be talking about personal development.
Big point.
And Kress, let's get into it.
All right, guys. Welcome back again. Like Tom said, we won't take you guys too long, but I think it's very imperative we touch up on a few points. Now, personal development. We all know what that means, right? How you develop yourself personally, inside and out. And I think one of the best questions to start with, Tom, is who are you? You know, do you know yourself? Who are you as a person? What are your beliefs? You know, are these beliefs of your own or what you were told? So I think it's very important to start from there. And reason being, Tom, is because if you don't know who you are, then what do you know? How can you judge the world and judge yourself, right? So I think that's important because starting that journey of figuring out who you are, what do you like, what gets you upset, what makes you happy, what you like that your friends or don't do, it all adds up to become something very important. So what do you think about?
I think that's very true. Who are you? You have to look at yourself in the mirror with an unbiased, objective point of view. You can't think of anything. You just have to look at what are the facts. And I had this thing where I looked at myself and I'm like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I always said, I was a double major of finance and accounting, but I never actually got it approved for a double major. So I looked at myself and I'm like, I'm not actually who I am. So I had to make sure I changed that. And that was just one kind of stepping stone that I did probably in the beginning of the semester.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing I just kind of noticed. And you have to truly know yourself. You have to know what makes you angry, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. You have to look at what your passions are and what are your interests.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to make sure you're having a positive outlook on life, and you have to do things, because life's so short. You have to make sure you do what you like, and because there's no point in doing something that you don't like to do.
Yeah, and to add on to that, being with who you are becomes the next question. Who are your friends? You know, because they say, when we were younger, our parents always told us that, you know, you gotta watch who you're around, because who you are around is what represents you, and you represent who you are around as well. And at least for me personally, I never really truly understood the value of what that may present. But now looking back and being in college, a university student, who are your friends matters so much, because they help you and your own goals naturally. So it becomes that when we all committed here together, we all roomed together and we were all business majors. And that was done on purpose, because if someone was an education major, a bio major, and a business major, we're not on the same page, same line. You know what I mean? It's hard to kind of be on the same schedule. Even doing homework, explaining stuff together, taking different tests, and just like kind of reviewing stuff together, you know? So I think that's really important. And then secondly as well, what do your friends, or I'll say this, how do your friends benefit you, and how do you benefit your friends? You know, and I think Tom and I, we can really elaborate on this much, because Tom, when we're doing certain things, for example, I may be doing some homework and Tom's cooking at the same time, and it could be flipped vice versa, you know? So I think how you guys benefit each other with your time and yourself really just stretches just who you are and what you represent.
I love this one quote by this one billionaire named Dan. His quote is, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." I think that I saw that quote maybe 2 years ago or so, and it's stuck with me ever since. Humans are creatures that adapt to their environment. So if your environment is people who, you know, they're not ambitious, they have no goals, they just sit around, watch TV, maybe just play video games all day, do nothing really meaningful, you're eventually gonna start acting like them and sway from your goals and your path. So you have to find people that really want the best for you. You have to find people that are doing stuff that are meaningful and productive, and that are trying to aim better. As long as you're trying to do stuff that are different and new and trying to level up, that's all that really matters.
Very true.
It just requires effort, honestly, for the most part. If you don't even try, then that's a shame on you.
Yeah, and to elaborate on that, Tom, if you and Frank go to parties every single day, and I'm trying not to, I may just be susceptible to falling more into the line of going to parties every day. So I think you made a great point where whatever we all do, what you guys do with your friends and how you guys all interact, it rubs off on each other, you know? I mean, this guy, bro, wakes up more than every single day. He wakes up early, and I think to an extent I adapted that and I adjusted to that as well. So I think it's really important to sit back and analyze, okay, while I want my friends to benefit me, but also how do I benefit them? Because it needs to be a mutual relationship, right? Not a parasitic relationship where one person feeds off each other. You know what I mean? So I think it's very imperative to just sit back and think, okay, here I am. I found out some more stuff about myself. I understand what makes me go, what makes me stop. Okay. Same thing with my friends. What are my friends doing? How can I benefit their lives? How can they benefit my lives? And then how can we complement each other to be as a whole together? So I think that's very important, Tom. And secondly, with this being said, I think this is very important. You guys need to think about this one a lot. Knowing who you are and knowing your friends presents a very important question. Are you a liar? And I know we may all think lying is something, you know, if you tell a little lie, then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't cause a big change in anything. But to be quite frank with you, falsifying yourself and just not realizing that you should just take the other route of speaking the truth, it does matter. It really does matter, because it adds up. If you tell yourself every day that, okay, here's my room's dirty, but you convince yourself, no, I'll get it later, oh, my room's clean, then after a while, it's going to be clean in your eyes, and it shows through your action, because what your action is saying is, if I can walk past that every day, then it's clean to me. Same thing with homework. If I can not do my homework every day and convince myself that it's fine, then that's going to be my natural default settings. So I think it's very important not to falsify yourself, because when you do that, there's going to become a very important decision you have to make one day. And what if you don't know what decision to make? And it goes back to speaking the truth, Tom, because the truth is very imperative. And the reason why is because the world is a better place. If I'm like, okay, Tom, I want to go to a library. Do you want to come with me? And you say yes when you know you don't want to come, you may have to do some studying, then how is that helping you? How is that benefiting you and your aspect of things? So, I mean, I think that's a really important part to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, when you gotta look at yourself and just be brutally honest. You can't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
That's one thing. You have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to make sure you're trying to be to the highest standards for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, I have a question for you, Kress.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, something's on your mind that's bothering you for your roommate. I want to see, would you actually speak up for yourself, or would you and say what you're actually thinking, or would you just delay that and just hope that things get better without actually confronting your roommate or something, without that physical confrontation, or would you just kind of push it to the side even though it does bother you?
Very good question. So I think putting things off is a key to building resent and building negative emotions. What I would do personally, Tom, is I would figure out a way to best present such conversations, right? I would confront the situation, because if you put something off, when you have something to say, silence is a lie. You know, you're not benefiting yourself by saying nothing. All you're doing is just digging yourself in a deep hole and just trying to be a people pleaser, you know? You can't be agreeable in every single thing you do, because if you value your friend's opinion, then they should value your opinion. Would you want your friends not to say anything to you if there was a problem? No. So why is the same thing not reciprocated? You know what I mean? So what I would do, honestly, is just bring forth the situation, whatever the case may be, and just say it in a way where it could be understood, because if that's the route you take and that's something you continuously do over and over and over again, then let's say you're building a career, you're making a business, you're not going to be able to say what you need to say. Maybe you have to be like, listen, I need a raise because of such and such, and I've been doing such and such, or I think we should do this because this is important. These are the reasons why. If you just a pushover and you don't do and say what you mean, then how can you, in essence, be credible towards yourself? How can you trust yourself into making such decisions? You know, this is one question I always ask people. And it could go both ways in both genders. If your son or your daughter was in a situation and they told you something along these lines of the question, what would you tell them to do? Would you say, oh, it's fine, just leave it alone? Or would you say, you know what, if you have something to say, speak up? And so I think it's a great question, Tom, and I want to see what your answer would be as well.
Yeah, I think you can't delay what you actually want to say. You have to speak exactly what's on your mind. That's one thing that I feel like helps for me and you living together. we're brutally honest with each other. If there's something that's bothering each other, we say it right away. We don't try to, build up walls against each other. We're roommates. We're here to, be the best that we could possibly be for each other. There's no reason if something's bothering you, you have to be honest and open about it. So that's what I think some people can just take away. And if something's on your mind, speak up. Because that's one thing that you can't do in the future. You can't go back to something and be like, I wish I stood up for myself more. So that's one thing I think is positive from that.
Well, I'll tell you what too, Tom. Think about it this way. How many times have we been in class when the professor says, is there any questions? Are there any questions? And no one raises their hands. And not everyone in the class is an A+, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a question you have to ask, right? But it's either the fear of just being judged or just practicing all those habits of just not saying what you need to say. Because think about it this way, Tom. If you and I have an issue and we don't address it, then how can it be solved? It will just continually build up. And it's important because as adults and going through the way the world is, and especially on social media, if you do not say what you think and think and say stuff, then you're effectively a feather in the wind. People won't value nor trust your opinions or credible ideas if you're not able to process them, think them through, and speak up. Because I could have the best ideas in the world. I could have the best ideas in the world for our podcast, right? And if I never say it and then you put your ideas, why would it make sense for me to get mad at you? Oh yeah, Tom, you're doing all this stuff, but I have these ideas. But I've never said anything to you, and that's not your fault at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to just sit back and be like, all right, how many things have I been wanting to say that I need to say that would just help my life be so much better? Because here's the thing, if you and I solve this problem short term, it's better long term, right? Short term, oh yeah, I don't have to say anything, it's fine. You can lie to yourself short term, but when reality hits, right? So I think it's very important to just think and be like, you know what? And to be fair, conversations can be uncomfortable, but that's the whole point of the conversation. Nothing good is easy, right? Solving problem, it's called a problem for a reason. If you have a big math problem, you can't figure it out in one step. You have to do multiple steps. It may take disagreements, it may take other things, but the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And if we can't figure out what the middle is, then how can we facilitate that? So I think that's really important, Tom.
Yeah, so to switch it up a little bit, we've been talking about speaking up for yourself. Also, for personal development, you have to be a good listener. You have to really listen to what, your friend or your relationship, your girlfriend, whatever, you have to understand and listen and actually, try to listen to understand. You can't just listen to respond. You have to actually listen, understand, and then formulate ideas and thoughts and critiques, and then you speak up. So you have to really make sure you're listening and paying attention to somebody, especially if they're saying anything personal too.
Yeah, and I think it's important to listen because we're all human, so let's just admit it, right? We all want to be right. We all think we're right, sometimes maybe more than not. But that is not the goal of the conversation. The goal of the conversation is, okay, I'm going to say what I think, and you're going to say what you think, and then we're going to figure out how we can solve that, right? Because if you have something to say, I need to listen, and to prove that I'm listening, maybe I won't even lie. I've learned this, I've saw this, and I've tried to implement it. When someone says something, repeat what they said, ask them if that's a valid assumption, and sum if their points. If they're satisfied with that, they're like, okay, yes, that was true. So then now when you clarify that with them, they can think, okay, this person understands what I'm saying. They heard me, right? So then when it's your time to speak, then the same thing happens. Then you can be like, okay, you know what? This is what's going on. And I think the key of repeating that is because you don't listen to respond right away. If your first response after someone makes a statement is this what you're saying? I want to make sure so I'm not wrong so I can respond effectively. Then it benefits you. But if you're just quick to respond, quick to fly off the handle, then it's a pointless conversation. It's just going to degenerate into something very negative. So I do not think it is, what word should I use? I don't think it's very beneficial at all for anyone or for both parties at all to do that. So yeah, Tom, that's what I really think.
So we touched up on, speaking up for yourself, listening. There's a huge thing that I'm very that I am actually a victim of. Talking negatively to yourself. So for example, I trade. After having a bad trade that, I know I should have made, or, made a mistake that I know I should fix, I don't let it go, and I talk to myself very negatively.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to change immediately, because the only thing you can control in this life is your mind and what you actually think. So I have to have more positive thoughts, especially when there's negatives in it. So you have to look for the positives in everything.
Yeah. I tell my friends this a lot, Tom. Your brain does not know a joke versus not a joke. So if you say something, let's say you're doing some homework, even if you're taking a test and you didn't do bad, and you're like, oh, I'm dumb, I'm not good enough, I'm such and such. You can be like, oh no, I'm just joking, I'm not serious. Your brain, whatever happens, whatever you say, it goes into the unconscious part of you and the conscious part of you. But the difference is, your brain does not know which one that is. You know what I'm saying? So speaking negatively toward yourself is just not a good thing. Because we talk about stuff like manifesting and saying stuff like that, saying, oh, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be wealthy. Well, if you're speaking more positive reinforcements towards yourself, can't you not feel better? Is that going to make you feel worse? You know what I mean? So just saying stuff that's negative towards yourself, like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I will never be able to do this, then how are you ever going to do it? Tom, if we wanted to start this podcast, right, you're like, yo, Kress, start this podcast, right? And I'm like, oh, we can't do it because of this, we can't do it because of that. How are we ever going to start it? How are you going to like my energy towards that? You know what I mean? So it's very important to just think back and say, okay, I have two choices to make. I can be negative toward myself and just go down the hole, or I could be positive towards myself. And I'm not saying be overly positive to a way where you're disregarding your actual truth and honesty, right? You have to hold yourself accountable on both aspects of it. And if something bad does happen, hold yourself accountable and critique yourself, not be negative. Okay, I failed this test. Is it because I am not good enough? No, it's because, okay, maybe I didn't study this, maybe I needed to look more into this. And then, so it's just all about what perspective you kind of like see and look at. And yeah, I mean, even with your trading too, it's always finding the fine line, you know? And I think that's very important to look at it, because especially in a day and age like this, man, with social media, Instagram, TikTok, if you become negative towards yourself, especially the algorithms too, it will keep feeding you that same content that you wish to bring forth. I mean, I think that's pretty much all I think on that one. It's not beneficial, it does not help you, nor is it gonna make your life better in any way, shape, or form.
So today we've talked about, how to become a better person. And that starts with you internally and externally, from who you surround yourself with and also how you think. What would you say, one piece of advice to viewers out here to just start becoming a better person? What would you say is the biggest thing your biggest advice?
What I would say is take a minute or more and sit down and ask yourself a few questions. What am I doing right now that is not benefiting my life? What am I doing that is just hurting me and my life? What can I do to better my life? And how can I better my life? If you sit down and ask yourself questions, you have the answers. What am I doing that is not beneficial towards my life? Maybe I need to clean my room. Maybe I need to study more on this test. Maybe I need to pay more attention in class. But if you never sit down and have these conversations with yourself, then how are you truly gonna know? You're just gonna live in a fairy tale world? You know what I mean? So just to run back on the topic is to really sit down and ask yourself. Ask yourself these questions. And another thing is, I got this one from Jordan Peterson, and I'm glad I remember it. Think about this and ask yourself this. What stupid things am I doing that I know I should not be doing, that I know is not benefiting my life? And what beneficial things can I do that I know will help my life and add towards my future goals? Because personal development all starts with self-accountability. You tend to hear that when a relationship ends, one person always says it's the other person's fault. There's always two sides of the story. No matter how small that is, there is always two sides of the story. Looking like the better person in front of a crowd may seem good, but who's gonna be alone at night going to bed thinking, damn, I knew I had some stuff I needed to fix too, you know? So I think it's very important to hold yourself accountable. And secondly, when it comes to holding yourself accountable, you really have to sit back and be like, all right, what is stopping my way? And I'll tell you, our phones are stopping us. Social media is stopping us. TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, the attention span that keeps happening is just insane. You know, how long am I on my phone? What can I do instead of being on my phone? Can I go get a social life? Can I be more social? Can I even go to the gym? Can I even okay, there's not a gym close to me. Can I do 10 push-ups? Can I do 5 sit-ups? You know, can I just write down something? Can I write down 3 things that happened positively to me today? Because there's one thing about social media. It's kind of like a slot machine, you know? The algorithm is built to make you keep scrolling and keep scrolling. And there's, like I said, there's always a good and bad side of things. Social media can be absolutely great. It can be absolutely good. We're using it right now for a good cause. It can be good, but there's always a fine line and find that balance. So I would say, you know, sit back and ask yourself questions and be brutally honest with yourself, because if you're not, you won't realize. And the next thing too is we can lie to ourselves and it may not show right away, but long term it will, you know. For example, if you don't do your homework at the start of the semester, midterm finals week is going to catch up to you. Compared to if you do the hard work now, then you'll be smooth sailing. So I think that's very important. And Tom, what would you say your advice is? I'll put the question back on you.
So I would say the first thing for any viewer out here, how does your room look? Is it clean? Is it dirty? Do you have your clothes just on the floor? Are your clothes put away? Are they folded nicely? Do you know where everything is in your room? So it's quick and easy. So, oh, I want this shirt. Oh, just it's folded up in, you know, this drawer, etc. I think it all comes with your room, because that shows honestly your mental space in a way.
Very true.
It shows if, you know, you're clean and organized. That can also help for just other aspects in your life. If you are all cluttered, you have stuff all over the place, that also just reflects in your mood, because for the most part, you stay in your room for the majority of the day. Like that's your safe, that's your safe place, exactly. So I think really being disciplined, making your bed, and just having a good, just clean environment where you're living. That's my biggest advice.
And I would say, Tom, the things you do every day are extremely important. You want to find it out, just do the arithmetic of it. If I'm on my phone every day, if I watch Netflix all day, if I go out and party all day, it's gonna reflect what I do. If I study one day out of the week, that's nothing. That's a small aspect of what the whole week can show, right? So what you do every day is absolutely important. So like you said, if you can fine tune that, figure stuff out. Like I think nowadays, bro, every day we have to go to the gym. Even if we're going there for 5 minutes, even if we're just going down to stretch, you know, it's kind of just built in now and stuff like that. So, and honestly, speaking of that, habits are not easy to build, right? It's not the easiest thing to build, and you don't realize the benefit until the habit is built. You know, if I'm working out and I want to gain 10 pounds or 5 pounds, I'm not going to notice any change within the first week. But when I actually get there, it could be a month from now, whatever the case may be, I'm like, you know what? That was worth it. That seemed absolutely worth it. So yeah, Tom, and another question that I think it's really important to ask ourselves is, how can I start now? You know, because we can say all these things. Don't get us wrong. It's not easy, especially when you're new to something. When you're new to anything, it's not easy. We're still working on improving ourselves, but the difference is we're aiming up, we're trying, right? We're trying to get to that next step, regardless of how far we are. So just ask yourself, what can you do now? Because maybe you can't go to the gym every day yet. Maybe you gotta start doing 1 push-up. Maybe you have to start by just going downstairs, looking at the gym, going to the gym, coming back. Incremental improvements are massively important. It's important because, okay, if I do 5 push-ups every day compared to 10 or 20 push-ups once a week, which one do you think is going to be better? The 5 push-ups. Consistency is key. So that's really what I would say, Tom. What about you with the last one?
I would say the hardest part is just to start. Because, the fool is a precursor to the savior, as Jordan Peterson always says. You have to be the fool in everything, and that requires trying new things. Do you think we knew what to do for our first podcast? No. We had no idea. But, we build off of it, and you learn from doing it. And that's what we've learned from doing social media and all these different projects. It's just, you have to start. Time's so limited, and you can't keep saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You have to start, and you have to take ownership of it, and you have to start it right away. Because things take time to build. And as you know, time goes by fast. We're already almost done with this semester. We're going home for Thanksgiving break. It's insane. So, yeah.
No, and another thing, Tom, I think the other thing, too, is the fear of rejection. The fear of not passing, the fear of not being able to do it. I've noticed enough from my observations, a lot of people are scared to not do things right, scared of rejection, scared of not doing it to their best of their ability, not realizing that if you start, you're already better than not starting, right? If you go to the gym once, it's better than not going to the gym at all. You know what I mean? So the fear of rejection is, and it goes back to class, like, when the professor says, is there any questions? Maybe you fear your question not being good enough. Maybe you're like, oh, maybe, it's fine. Maybe I'm just not smart enough and it's just on me. You gotta take a risk, like we said before in the last podcast. You cannot do things without taking risk. How is it going to work? You know what I'm saying? And there's gonna be times you're gonna get laughed at. There's gonna be times where people may laugh at you at first in the progress, There's gonna be times when people just don't trust in you. And it's important, and that's where your circle and your network comes in handy. I could have such and such people not believing in me, but if the people that I value, that I'm with on a daily basis, and that we benefit off each other believe in me, then that's more motivation and drive to get things done, Tom. So that's what I would say, just not being so fearful, because how are you gonna get through life? Okay, a problem presents itself a decade down the road. Your children has an issue. Are you gonna? You have to react. They're dependent on you to be the leader, to be the facilitator. You're not just gonna wake up one day and just change. That's just not how things work. College is the best time to take risks, be dumb, be the fool, so to speak, and realize that you're still learning. We have 60 years to be better, bro. People are just becoming CEOs at 50, 55, 20, 29, 25. You can't put a time limit on yourself. You can only just know that you need to improve and get better. So yeah, Tom, that's what I think.
And as Gary Vee says, you have to grind just every single day and just not expect any results. That's one thing I respect of him. He put in the work for years, and he didn't really see the fruits of his labor until, 5-10 years down the road. But that's what it really comes down to. It's all about consistency and just stepping out of your comfort zone. Today we talked about some good ways to really, step out of your comfort zone and start becoming a better person and just work on yourself. And I hope you guys learned at least a lesson or two from this podcast. I feel like if you just rewatch it and really listen to everything we said, there's definitely some things that you can implement in your life right away that can definitely help you out.
Yeah, guys. I mean, Tom said it best. What is life without risk? What is life without reward? How do you get that reward? Think about the Elon. Tom, I have to tell the Elon Musk story, because I think it's a great testament to how it is taking a risk and just putting it all out there sometimes, and just understanding that it is okay. So could you just tell us real quick on how he managed to keep Tesla, SpaceX, and all those things just
I'll do it real quick. In 2008, 2009, when the recession was hitting, Tesla was running low on cash, and SpaceX had 3 failed launches. So he managed to scrape up one more launch for SpaceX, and if that didn't work, that SpaceX would no longer be the company that they are today, helping out the US government, trying to do missions to the moon and stuff. And he put all of his money into both, into Tesla and SpaceX. He knew that if he did this, both of them could die. But he did that risk, and look at where he's at now. Buying Twitter, he's done so many things for free speech. He's put back Donald Trump, he put back Andrew Tate back on the platform. He's doing many different things, and he's he's one amazing person that he's changed the world, and
Yeah.
people should really start maybe watching YouTube videos and interviews, because his work ethic,
Yeah.
the reason why he's at where he is, because he's the one willing to sleep at the office and just grind continuously, and he does that even at this day and age.
Thank you for that, Tom. And I think it's really important because it's someone you can really look up at. And what I would say is too, ask yourselves, who are your role models? Who do you look up to? Let's say you look up to an artist, a singer, a rapper. What do they represent? What are their philosophy? What are their morals? You know, look deep into things. You know, not just, oh, this person has status, it means you're good. No, that's not how things go all the time, you know. You can look up to someone that's not having that big of a status. So it's really all about perspective, being perspicacious, and just figuring things out, because what is life without it? That's the whole point of life to an extent, right? Figuring things out, failing, trying, and doing all those things. So yeah, guys, I really would love for you guys to just sit down and listen and actually take in what we've said, because it's very important. It's some things that we've learned, it's some things that has helped us, and I think it could also help you guys as well, because we're no different than you guys. We're all human, right? We're all university students, and some of us are not. It doesn't matter. What matters is trying and aiming up.
And I think to the viewers, first thing I want you guys to do and try to implement in your life, make your bed. Try to do it for a week consistently. See how that makes you feel. Accomplishing a goal first thing early in the morning. See how it makes you feel, and let us know how that really, if you do it, let us know how it makes you feel, and give us some advice and comments, and make sure you share it to friends and family.
Yep. Guys, thanks again for watching. We appreciate all the love. We like the support. Keep liking and subscribing. Share it to your friends. And let's make Westchester University a better place.